Hello, hello, hello. This is Raven, and today we're going to be talking about Dracula Untold. I know this movie's been out for a while. I saw it last weekend and only just got around to making a review of it. So this is going to be hopefully a quick one. I'm just going to go over some of the major triggers, some stuff I liked, some stuff I didn't like, and my overall thoughts on it. Anyway, let's get started. So we are going to start with the triggers. The major ones are going to be violence. There was a guy that got his arms chopped off and he was kind of screaming for a while. That was kind of gross, but it wasn't like horrifically graphic. It was disturbing, but like if you can handle like moderate gore, you'll be okay. There was impalement, of course, because Vlad the Impaler, um, and there was just general war-related violence. I think this was PG-13, so the violence isn't too horrific, but if you are sensitive to gore, you probably don't want to watch this. The other big thing is that there is some child abuse that happens. It starts off right away by giving an overview um, of boys being enslaved by the Turks and taught to fight. And there are some disturbing images that go along with that of like boys being whipped and like hurting each other and stuff. It's not horrifically graphic, but it is disturbing. If you are sensitive to that stuff, you will also not want to watch this. And then just one that could bother people but isn't like a super common trigger is bats. Bats are everywhere in this, everywhere. Um, the, Vlad turns into bats, so if you're freaked out by bats, don't watch this because they're going to be everywhere. Anyway, what they did right that I think that they did right was the cinematography was pretty good. It wasn't like stellar, but it was serviceable. I also enjoyed the soundtrack. Again, it wasn't anything special, but it served the purposes of the story. And well, with the cinematography, the fight scenes weren't very good, but overall, it was okay. The CGI was pretty good. Oops, I got a little loud there. The CGI was pretty good. It enhanced, I think, the movie rather than distracting from it. The bats, especially, were pretty cool. I liked seeing that effect. The scenery, this kind of goes along with cinematography, but the scenery was really nice. They had some really good sets, and I don't know how much of it was green screen or, like built sets, and how much of it was shooting on location wherever they were, but it was really nice. I thought it was very atmospheric. And the costuming was good. It was not as good as Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is kind of my height of vampire costuming. But it was good. They made some good design choices, I think. And then the thing that I actually liked most about the movie was the father-son relationship. You can have problems with the way that Vlad is portrayed, but they do have a very nice father-son relationship in this movie. Vlad cares very deeply about his son, and his son cares very deeply for him. And it's just really nice to see scenes in which they're interacting. It's not as exciting as like the fight scenes, but it does give more dimension to Vlad's character and to his son's character to see them interacting like that. The stuff that I did not necessarily like, first off, was the fight scenes. They were all shaky cam, or almost all. There might have been one or two instances where they didn't do that, but I just found it difficult to follow, and I could see that being a stylistic choice to kind of illustrate the confusion that the invading armies felt when Vlad and the vampires attacked. Oops, spoilers, sorry. But when, like, Vlad especially was attacking armies and stuff, I could see that being a stylistic choice to deliberately make it confusing and tense, but I did not like it very much. There were also a number of plot holes. The rules about what did and didn't affect vampires were kind of weird. They were not very consistent. Um, well, I guess this one was a little more consistent, but when Vlad stepped out into the sun, his clothes would start burning along with his skin, and that was kind of like, I don't know if I can really get behind that, because, I mean, do his clothes just become part of him because they're touching him and therefore they also burn? Or, it just didn't quite make sense. The bloodlust, which Vlad was told would be unbearable, was very inconsistent. Um, there was one scene where he had a lot of trouble and was like, oh no, I'm going to bite my wife, I have to leave. But otherwise, he was like hugging his son, he was hugging his wife, he was hanging out with people. I mean, he was like totally fine. So that was kind of weird. The effects of silver were not completely clear because, I made a pun, because of this next part. Because at one point it looked like the silver was actually blurring his vision. And before that, it had just been burning him. So, granted, that was a scene where there was silver everywhere, but it was still kind of odd because it was something that hadn't been touched upon before. So it kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. Along with like the Bernie clothes, this kind of goes with it. A wooden stake, totally burned through his armor, Vlad's armor, and that I didn't really get that. Like, do his clothes just become part of him and share his weaknesses, or was it just for dramatic effect? I'm not sure. There were also some plot contrivances, like, spoiler alert, I say that there's spoilers in all these reviews, but this is kind of a big one, is that the big plot contrivance is his wife dying right before sunrise on the third day, right before he was going to turn back into a human. And, going, oh no, drink from me, you're going to have to, go save us all, and to do that, you're going to have to become a monster, and, it was just kind of contrived. Anyway, the women weren't treated that well. I mean, like, it's not like they were treated badly, per se, but they were just kind of props. The wife basically existed to die, and to be distraught over her son possibly being taken from her, and also to, like, be distraught over Vlad being a monster. But yeah, it was definitely a man's movie. The relationships were all about men, and the women just kind of fell by the wayside. I'm not saying that, like, they would have to be a huge part of it, but it would have been a little nicer to get some of the same dimension to, like, Vlad's relationship with his wife that they gave to his relationship with his son. And here's some things that are weird, but not necessarily bad. Vlad is in this movie basically a pacifist, which is strange. Definitely goes very against his usual characterization. He, impaled people so that he could save more people. He wanted to be terrifying so that people wouldn't attack him and cause wars and cause more bloodshed, which is logical and kind of goes along with some depictions of him, but, like, they really made him a pacifist. He didn't want to hurt anybody. It was kind of odd. But I did find that interesting. I didn't find it necessarily to take away from the movie. It was just kind of an interesting detail for his character. There were also some historical inaccuracies that I've found out. I mean, obviously it's a horror movie. There's going to be some inaccuracies. But a big one was that Vlad probably wouldn't have been treated as badly as he was in the movie if he was a royal hostage. I I mean, I'm sure they didn't treat him great, but like he wouldn't have been treated as poorly as they said he was in the movie. And that's neither good nor bad. For the purposes of the story, he kind of had to have been treated really badly as a royal hostage, because that gave more of a sense of like it raised the stakes. Um, he really, really did not want his son to go through the same thing that he did. So, I considered that a weird thing, but not a bad thing. I overall liked this movie. I thought it was very entertaining. It was a nice way to spend an hour and a half. It wasn't great, but it was, if you just want something to watch that's got some fight scenes, that's got a relatively decent story, you just want to kill an hour and a half, you want some kind of a popcorn movie, it's a good choice. It's better than some of the stuff that's out that's similar. And, you don't have to watch it. It's not like a must see, but it's good for what it is. I enjoyed it. I would probably watch it again. I don't know that I would buy like a DVD copy of it, but I would watch it again. So those were my thoughts. Um, I hope this was informative and enjoyable for you. Thank you very much, and I will see you on the dark side of the moon.